All right, we are working through Cleopatra. We are on page 23, and it's the next morning. Early, just as at sunrise, Berenice and I visited the docks. Berenice, who never goes out of the apartments. We watched the royal zookeepers carry a cage down the ramp with a new lioness and her two mewing cubs inside. They were captured last month far up the Nile and brought to Alexandria. Word is that Julius Caesar himself has requested them to battle his gladiators. I am pleased that Puso is spared forever from this horrible amusement. Also on the barge was a baby baboon, an orphan apparently. Berenice thought it looked so sweet, swinging in its cage, that she's taken it from the zoo back to the palace. I do love this sister, but she's not very imaginative. Do you know what she named her little pet? Baboon. That's it. Berenice might be beautiful, but she would not make an interesting queen. In the early evening, I went to the royal stables. Bucephalus, my beautiful horse, white Arabian, stomped in her stall when she saw me. I haven't ridden her in 2 weeks, and I miss her. I named her after King Alexander the Great's war horse, which carried him into battle as far as India. When Bucephalus died, Alexander built a magnificent city to surround his tomb. I wrapped my arms around her big neck, she snorted. Then she tossed her head, her white mane stinging my face, a playful habit ever since she was a filly. She nudged my arm until I brought out the treat hiding in my belt, a small square of honeycomb. Here, Bucephalus, I said, good girl. Her brown eye watched me as I stroked her neck. A thick ivory comb hung on the gate next to my saddle. When I reached for it, she butted my hand, knocking it into the straw. She dislikes having her mane untangled, so today I'll just return the comb to its hook. You wild thing, I thought in my heart, you lovely wild thing. Oh, I envy her freedom, that she is without cares or worries. This evening, as I was bathing and listening to Neva, my younger sister, Arsinoe, marched into my chamber. Her dress was blue with a purple sash. She was barefoot except for ornaments jingling on her ankles. She was followed by her nurse and 3 of her little barking dogs. I call them the toads because their noses look squashed and wet. She tugged at her nurse's skirts because she was too excited to speak for herself. Her nurse bowed. Your Highness, she said to me, Arsinoe wants you to find her a new playmate. She's tired of her brothers and she wants a pygmy child to amuse her. Sinking low into my bath, I splashed warm water on my face to think. Arsinoe's last request was for a child from the Dinka tribe. There are graceful, gentle people who can grow to be more than 7 feet tall. A Dinka girl was then captured near her home up the Nile and brought to the palace, but she died from a fever after a few days. Father has given me the authority to grant any requests of my younger siblings. I enjoy this responsibility, for in my heart, I'm practicing to be queen. But as for a pygmy child, I do not intend to give my sister everything she asks for. I'll see what I can do, Arsinoe. Now go to bed. The 15th of January. I spent the morning at the library and museum, where new toys and machines are often invented. As these buildings are connected to the palace, I'm free to be myself. I can speak in Greek and wear my dress with the royal sash, veil, purple veil, arrow at my side. She stands as tall as my waist, so I rest my hand on her back as we wander about. As usual, Neva came with me. Unlike the times we walked side by side along the beach or in the agora, she remained 3 steps behind me to show respect. Puso stood in the doorway, his arms crossed. Today he wore a short Egyptian skirt made of leather. In the library, we came upon my friend Olympus. He was studying on a bench beneath the window. Sunshine pours into the halls and atria here, giving good light for reading. Though he's 14 years to my 12, he's already studying to be a physician, and he hopes one day to work for the royal family. His father is originally from Athens, and he's one of the philosophers we've appointed. These learned men have amazing ideas, as do our astronomers and scientists. But Father wants these ideas to stay within the palace walls, for if peasants hear too many new things, they might revolt. We need them to work our fields and fish the rivers, not sit and think. Father says this is the way of the house of Ptolemy, to stay in power, and that thinking is for the noble class. I'm not sure he's right, but it is the way it is. Olympus smiled when he saw me. His short chiton was tied at his waist, and he wore a leather pouch to hold his writing tools. A secret he and I share is that we write notes to each other. This seems curious because we see each other often, but it has proven to be an easy way to talk without people seeing or spying on us. His letters are so clever, I've saved them. They're locked securely in a chest by my bed. I remained standing while Olympus rolled up papyrus he'd been reading. He climbed onto a stool to slide the scroll into a hole in the wall where dozens and dozens are stored. So he's got a scroll and he's rolled it up and he stuck it into a hole in the wall where dozens and dozens are stored. So it looks like a giant honeycomb. They're almost like V-shaped, and you stick the scroll in. And you can imagine this, I think she'll talk about it, but each one has a little tag. And so you're just like a wall, right? Instead of a bookshelf, you'd have a scroll wall where all of the scrolls have been tucked in and their little tags are hanging from a string so that you can look at the title to see which one you want to read. They're using scrolls instead of books at this time. All right. In fact, so the wall looks like a giant honeycomb. In fact, there are many of these throughout the library, filling entire rooms up to the ceiling. The knob on each scroll has a string attached to it with a little tag that hangs over the shelf. This way, the next reader will be able to identify its contents, for we have the ancient writings of Aristotle and Plato, as well as the Hebrew prophets. They're all being stored in one building. It's not going to work out in the end, by the way. When a breeze moves through the halls, these tags flutter like hundreds of tiny white butterflies. Picture that. Homer's poem about Odysseus is here too. I've read it twice. Stepping down from the stool, he leaned close enough to whisper, "I have bad news, Cleopatra." I didn't answer. For a moment, I just wanted to look at him. His eyes are gentle and his hair curls onto his forehead in the Greek style. His beard will be blonde when it grows, but for now it's just fuzz on his cheeks and chin. He took my arm with the familiarity of a childhood playmate, not concerned with my royal status. He led me to a courtyard where there was a fountain. Neva and Puso stood at a distance, but I wish they'd been next to me when Olympus gave his terrible report. "A plot has been discovered," he said. "The hearts of the people are filled with schemes to do wrong. They want your father dead. Assassins are searching for him as we speak." To continue, I lowered myself onto a seat by the pool. Cool blue mosaics cover the shallow bottom. The fountain pours over the side into a smaller pool. Arrow settled herself at my feet, her two front paws stretched out in front of her. I sat quietly stroking her head as Olympus continued. He spoke in a low voice, so that the noise of the water could muffle his words should anyone try to hear us. He explained a dark truth. As Pharaoh, father is hated by nearly everyone in Egypt, especially the villagers who live along the Nile. Not only has he mismanaged the government's money and taxed everyone unfairly, father ordered that any new silver coins being minted must have 2/3 of the silver left out. This means that at the agora or on the docks, a man's money is now only worth 1/3 of what it used to be. I don't blame the people for being angry. But how can I, Princess of the Nile, help them? And how can I keep them from murder? I remained calm while Olympus talked. Calm, that is, until he described father's plan. He wants the Romans to come to Alexandria with all their troops. He wants them to punish the villagers so he can come out of hiding and reclaim his throne. Father has already promised to pay 10,000 talents to a wealthy Roman moneylender if he'll hire the soldiers. At this news, my heart despaired. And even though bright sunshine filled the courtyard, I began to shiver. I struggled for composure, as a princess must, but I felt anxious too. Egypt could be doomed if father follows through with this plan. He knows as well as the rest of us that if the Romans land here and stake down their tents, they'll never leave us alone. These soldiers are the strongest, most fearless men in the world. Has father lost his mind? Maybe he's drunk again, I thought, for he does worship Dionysus, the god of wine. When does my father, the king, plan to leave? I asked, Olympus shading my eyes so that with my hand to look at him. Anyone spying on us might think we were merely discussing the weather. Early spring, he answered, before the vernal equinox. I calculated. Winter should be ending in several weeks. Then ships will resume traveling the open seas. If one counts by moons, there are just 8 months a year for ocean voyages, safe from storm and foul winds. Father could sail to Rome and back by autumn. I wish in my heart he would just send a letter asking Julius Caesar for help instead of making such long journeys. But letters have been known to get lost or stolen. And father says there's nothing like eye-to-eye contact to get a man to agree with you. I hope he's right. But oh, Isis, I am frightened. If father does go to Caesar to ask for help, who will be here to protect me from Tryphena? She'll take the throne in his absence, I know it, and she'll put watchful, hateful eyes on me. While I adore Berenice, she is second in line to be queen. What worries me is that her softness causes her to be easily influenced. She'll be loyal to father, or she'll be loyal to the schemes of Tryphena. As for my little sisters and brothers, they still sleep in a nursery and play with toys. Although Arsinoe is old enough to want a pygmy playmate, she's no threat to me. Evening. There was quite an upset at our meal tonight. Berenice brought her new pet along to recline with her on the couch. But when Baboon saw the food, he refused to sit down. He leapt onto the table where plates of oysters were beautifully displayed with cucumbers and sea urchins, my favorite dish. Baboon helped himself. Before we could rescue the meal, Baboon found the bowl of onions and scooped them up with his tiny little hands. Then they fell from the table and rolled along the floor like white marbles. Meanwhile, Tryphena stood up, furious. She clapped her hands and ordered servants to catch the wretched creature, as she called him. But dinner was ruined. 3 men throwing themselves at a squirming animal made a mess of the table. I'm eating tonight in my room. Neva just brought in a nice leek soup, I believe, with fresh cooked duck eggs and bread for dipping. All right, that is it for today. So I'm going to stop and we'll see you later.